Good morning, good afternoon, and a wonderful good evening. Welcome to the Pivotal Perspective. Oh, I'm on fire. I'm all excited, Adrian. I'm your host, Elliot Brown, with my wonderful co-host, of course.
Adrian Durbansu, not so much on fire like Elliot, but yeah, hello.
I don't know why I got so excited then, but it felt good. It felt good. Listen, thank you very much for watching. If you are watching, we want to hear from you. Find out where you are. Give us a hashtag. Let us know you're watching live. Give us some love hearts or some thumbs up, whatever platform you are on. Well, this is the show where we're on a quest to learn from the best, aren't we, Adrian?
Always. Exactly.
And knowledge is power, and this is something that I've put in the little bit of the bit of intro bio that we put out when we put a post out. Well, today is future proofing you and your business, and we have a couple of guest extraordinaires in this evening that really do work with that the theme for this evening's show. The first one I'm going to mention is Vaishali Nikhade. She's going to really have a go at me, and I can't wait. She's gone out of my head. But as you all know, I'm really crap with second names when it comes to something that's a bit more interesting than Brown, for example, because that's easy. But anyway, Vaishali is now this is an interesting one. I'm intrigued because she is a clairvoyant, and she says she can predict the future for your business. What else do we know about Vaishali, Adrian?
Well, we know that connecting to the universe to understand that extraordinary moments can lead to extraordinary breakthroughs, or she can talk about how businesses readings work with some client examples, and she can see through the future of a business, think, time travel. Everything it's a bit like magic, mysticism, around Vaishali. So I think, she can always explain that much better than us. But as an example, I think tonight probably she's going to make a prediction if our next guest is going to buy any properties in the future or not. Let's put it that way, okay?
Absolutely. And of course, the other guest is our guest extraordinaire is Dan Rochon. Now, it's spelled, it looks like Rock On, which is a great name, I think, but it's Rochon. It's a softer way of putting it across. I think he poshened it up. I think it is Rock On, to be honest. But anyway, we'll find out in a minute. But Dan is a real estate broker. And in fact, he's been in the industry for many, many years. So real estate in America, in the UK, it's estate agents, property, and he's an author as well. He's very versed in what he does. What else do we know about Dan, Adrian?
Well, we know the fact that, he said his success story will serve to inspire anyone who is struggling to make a living and wants to take full control of their life again. And as someone who have felt lost and vulnerable at some point in his life, it just became his responsibility to tell others that they can overcome any challenges. And he looks pretty much fulfilled now. So I suppose he's working what he's preaching.
I suppose it is. I suppose it is, my friend. Well, listen, without further ado, let's bring our guests onto the show. Hey,
hello, ladies and gents.
Hello.
You both calmed down in that little break. 2 minutes.
You got me disoriented. You put me on the left side.
Oh, really?
The right side. I don't know what to do here.
Let's
hey,
magic.
Oh, for a moment, I thought we fucked it up, so that's why you didn't say anything.
What do you think about that, Vaishali?
Within the first 5 minutes, we've already sworn. I mean, Vaishali said she doesn't use bad language, everybody, but as you all know, that we do occasionally drop the old F word in and things like that because we're passionate. That's the way we're passionate. We like to be creative and passionate about. So that's why the words come out. That's my excuse anyway. Anyway, guys, how you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you for asking.
I am doing great. Thank you.
Good. Listen, Dan, you are in Virginia, right?
Yeah, Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C.
And you are in California, Vaishali.
I am in Northern California, and we have a little bit of warning about the weather and some fires.
You do, yeah. Which has been definitely on the curse of California over the last 3, 4, 5 months, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of scary at times, although the fires are quite a bit away from where I live. But still, when you get notice on your phone that be prepared to evacuate, OMG.
Oh, really? Yeah, OMG.
Charlie, don't get carried away with the language here, please.
Yeah. Careful with that. Well, listen, I'm intrigued. I'm massively intrigued, Vaishali. You say that. Hi, Tristan. Tristan G. Thank you very much for watching. Has an incredible breakfast show around marketing. Has a wealth of knowledge to help people. Actually, if you've never checked it out, you guys want to check it out on Facebook and across the usual platforms. Uses StreamYard as well, as we all do. And anybody is watching, then let us know you are watching. Hashtag live and let us know where you're watching from, or if you're watching on a replay, put hashtag replay and let us know where you're watching from. So guys, Vaishali, you predict the future. How the hell do you do that?
That's a great question. How long do I have to answer that? Because I may have
a couple of minutes.
Trim that answer accordingly.
You already know how much time you have to answer that. So
yeah.
I mean, I could do it for 45 minutes if that's what you want.
Yeah, no, let's not do that.
All right. So what happened is in my past life, before I became a psychic, I used to be an engineer.
Right.
And I used to design computer chips. And
really?
I was having I was having some problems, so I did something else in between, which wasn't working out the way it should have been. And I started calling up psychics. And I called like 5, 10, 15, 20. It went up to like 30, 40, 50 psychics. And none of them were able to help me or tell me like what was supposed to happen. Isn't that what psychics do? They tell you what's going to happen.
Well, I thought so, yeah.
Oh my God, these people are all full of it. I have to study this myself. So I decided to study it myself, and I started testing it in small batches because I had, you have to understand, I came from a science background. So everything was like test and see if it works, and then test and tweak sort of a theory.
Right.
So I said, if I can make sure this works in the period of an hour, then it's going to work over a day, a week, a month, etc. If I cannot prove that it works in an hour, then forget it. It's not real. So what happened is I would go to the gym in the mornings, and I said I can test it out over what happens in the gym. So I did it like day 1. Before I go to the gym, I predict what's going to happen, and I come back and I look, and oh my God, it played out. So day 2 and day 3, the same thing. Yeah. So by day 4, the scientific brain in my head was like, how can this even be possible? I said, this just cannot be true. It's almost like predicting the future. How can it do that? So I said, today I'm just going to switch it around. So whatever the prediction says, I will do the opposite so that the prediction is wrong and I'm right. So it was my cardio day, and I would either run or go on the Stairmaster.
Right.
So I said that, okay, if the reading says that I go on the Stairmaster, then I'll run. And if the reading says I'll run, I'll go on the Stairmaster. So do you want to guess what it said? Because the way it put it, like no matter what I did, both of us would be right.
Right. Okay.
Do you want to guess?
You went on the Stairmaster.
No, but then only one person would be right.
Then you went on the running.
Only one person is right if I do either one.
Okay.
Okay. So, Dan, did you want to take a stab at it?
I was going to say do push-ups, all option C.
No, I think I know what she says over there. Yeah, so
I think it's probably cardiovascular is what I would guess to make either of those right.
All right. You didn't know you guys would be quizzed, but anyway.
No, I definitely didn't think it was going to go down that path for sure. No, but go on.
Okay, so what the reading showed is a woman at crossroads, which means that I could do either one and both of us would be right. So that day there was a switch in my brain that flipped, and I said, oh my God, this is real. So then I started studying it. I started making predictions for myself. I started seeing them play out, and then I started doing it for others.
Right.
Okay, so it's not something, one of those, mystical things that you get born with and you're gonna predict the future and stuff. It's actually based on logic and science.
It is based on science. There's a deep theory behind it, and I studied everything and I make predictions, but it's all of us are born with it. We just have to learn how to use these abilities.
Okay. Well, okay. I listen. I'm definitely up for listening to more about that for sure. Dan, have you ever had your cards read? Have you ever had any clairvoyant done anything for you in your life?
I don't believe so. I'm not opposed to the belief that it's possible. I think I've had that experience.
No. I mean, I haven't. I think I went to one of these things where you go into like a hotel and you have a day where there's clairvoyants and things in there, and they're supposed to read something, but they got nothing right for me, to be fair. But then I've had somebody try to hypnotize me before, and that hasn't worked. And apparently they can hypnotize anybody, and that didn't work for me either. I think you've got to have some sort of belief in this as well to make these things work, haven't they? So you accept it. Would you say that was right or wrong? I don't know.
I don't think it's so much of a belief as to see it play out. So essentially what you're saying is you had the same experience which I had, which is like you go to a lot of people and nothing seems to play out. So it's not real. And that's the experience I went through until I learned it for myself and I started seeing it play out.
Right. Okay. Well, I definitely want to find out how you can predict how a business is going to go. So we're definitely going to come back to that. Dan, you've been in property. Oh, hi, it's my mum. Big love to you, mum. Thanks very much for watching. Of course.
She initially said just hi to Elliot, but then she made up for it and said Adrian to your guest as well. So hello, Elliot. Thank you.
Thanks, mum. Big love to you. Anybody else who's watching, listen. If you've got questions or comments, drop them in the message in the comments below, and we'll make sure that we get them up on the screen, or see if we can answer them if there's any questions you've got, whatever they may well be. And trust me, we're all like all sorts of spectrums here. We've got clairvoyance and future reading, and then we have Dan. Building businesses, building properties, being a broker of properties. Dan, you're in a good area for it. Is it where do you cover? Do you cover geographically in a particular area as well?
I do. So Northern Virginia, which is where I'm based, Washington, D.C. and Maryland.
Okay.
And I've been in business for 14 years now, really.
Okay.
And I believe you can predict the future of a business as well. And I believe that you can predict the future just in general. From a business perspective, it's very much different than what Vaishali is sharing, which is for me to predict the future, you just look at the past.
Yeah.
And so it's taking a look at the past and then finding patterns of the past. And those patterns will be a guidepost to what the future will bring to you. The habits, the beliefs.
Your mic is a little quiet. Can you bring it a bit closer to you?
Yes. Is it better?
Well, that works.
All right.
Exactly.
It's a little bit quiet. But you don't have to be that close, I don't think.
Okay.
But yeah, so okay, just put that wherever you want to. Yeah. Try that.
Fantastic.
Okay. So yeah, and I think you're right as well. There tends to be a historic way that the property tends to work. We had a crash 12 years ago. In essence, we're potentially heading for a similar sort of situation here. But
well, if it's property or business, I mean, everything has a cycle. Everything has a pattern.
Yeah.
Business owners have a pattern of activities that they do, people they surround themselves with, which is going to lead to the outcomes.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, listen, and it is 10 to 12 years, isn't it? Is there tends to be that sort of cycle of things going on.
It is.
And you've been in property how long?
I've been investing in real estate for probably 20 years. I became a real estate agent 13 years ago, and then I bought the brokerage that I worked for.
Wow.
18 months after I became licensed as an agent, and owned that for 10 years, and then I finally sold it about 2 years ago, and that's when I wrote the book Real Estate Evolution.
Yeah,
the guide for agents to here's how to do the business, step by step guide for real estate agents.
And listen, there's not a lot that's as solid as property, is there, for investing in for the future?
If you want to develop wealth, it's one of the few ways to be able to develop wealth. Is, if you buy, when's the right time to buy a property? Yes. Because if you're intending to do it to be able to create wealth through time, through those 10, 12-year cycles that you mentioned, it will appreciate. Or at least it has since the beginning of time.
Yeah, for sure. And have you built properties as well, or do you just invest?
I've not built properties for the purpose of resale. I have done a lot of improvements to properties. I've added additions. I built my mom a home, was one of my life goals, and we just finished that about 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And so I figured that she took care of me for about the first 20 years of my life. So now it's my turn to give back, and that's been an honor to be able to do that for her.
Yeah, lovely.
And
the property market in or real estate market, I should say, in the States right now, in your area, how buoyant is it? How has it coped with what's been going on recently?
Well, if you look at when the pandemic began in March of 2020, it had zero impact on the real estate market because it was a proportionate decline of buyers and sellers. So there was about 35% less buyers, 35% less sellers. And as a result of that, at the beginning of the pandemic, there was zero, impact on the pricing. As we've gone through time, however, what we've seen is the lower price properties decline and the higher price properties incline.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's really coming from the K recovery of the people that are most impacted in the pandemic are the ones that are from a lower wage.
Of course.
Yeah, the ones with the higher wage, they're still working, and so they're not as impacted. So they're still able to buy and sell real estate.
Yeah. So riches are just going to get rich. I don't know, more rich, and the people who are not that, or let's say the poor ones are going to get poorer. I
think that if you look at this pandemic's accelerated what was already happening.
Yes, for sure.
Like having this conversation in this format across the world. A year ago, yes, it was possible, yet it wasn't as prevalent as it is today.
Definitely. Oh yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. It's brought, I think, in a weird way, brought communities together that are further apart. The closer the communities, I don't know what it's like in the States, and I've seen it time and time again. The closer the community, it's more distance. You go out in the street, you have a distance. Yet we've all got the further away, we've all got closer. Weird. So it's a strange world like that. Well, thanks to technology, I suppose, really. But we all know that property over the years generally increases. Has there been any support from the government with regards? We have what we call a stamp duty over here, which in essence is a tax when you buy and sell a property. Has there been any support on that? Have they taken that away to allow the economy, the sort of property sort of market to continue moving?
Yeah, really two things. One is the interest rates are still pushed down.
Of course.
So in the States, you've got a secondary mortgage market, which is basically somebody makes a loan to you on a property, say Bank of America. Bank of America sells that on the secondary market. So the Fed, which is a portion of the government, establishes the rates for the bond rate.
Okay.
And they establish the rates of what those are sold in the secondary market, which then trickles down into the consumer.
Right.
And so that's one way that the government has impacted. The other more significant way has been they've established forbearance, meaning that many people do not have to pay their mortgage, and they've also in many local municipalities have established that landlords cannot evict as well. But that's going to be more localized.
Yeah. Same here with a lot of things. For sure. And I asked you yesterday about a couple of things when it came to property in the town of what's going on in Romania, Adrian? I mean, what's happening over there?
Well, I can say that quite a few Romanians. Well, Romania has about we have more than 20 million people, or 20 million Romanians, but about 6 million of them they left the country, all right? But loads of them returned, same like I have returned now since the pandemic. And actually, the prices shot up a bit, more like the rents. So, the rents and the lettings, they just went up, and it's quite difficult to get something decent right now. In terms of house, selling things, prices, they kind of stagnated. They have not really gone that much. Yeah, really? Exactly. Yeah.
So when we found out last night, and we knew this already, but in the UK, we've had a pretty buoyant property market. In fact, it's actually accelerated, but with the stamp duty ending, that sort of that relief ending in March, there's likely to be a massive boost before then, and then likely to be a bit of a cliff edge. So we're going to see how that goes. But we were talking about that last night. But even so, let's face it, whatever happens, property is always going to be, a very, very safe bet long term. I mean, if you want to make money out of property within, a year, some of those days have gone. Go back 10 years ago, people were buying very cheap properties, doing them up to flipping them over, renting them out for peanuts. I mean, over here, you could buy properties for, 15, 20,000 pounds, and be able to do them up in is not a great area, do those up and then rent them out and get that money back in a couple of years. I mean, it was madness, really. A lot of that has gone now, and I'm sure there's parts of the States where you've got those lower property brackets they're not a great, and the whole area needs polishing up. So, is that a good area to buy? Are they going to be the places to buy over the next couple of years? Do you reckon, Dan?
I mean, it depends. You go back into the last real estate crash coming from from 2006 to 2009. The 5 markets that were most impacted were Detroit, Michigan, specifically Detroit, Florida, California, Arizona, and Nevada. Yeah. And of those, 4 of them were really their economies were driven by entertainment. Detroit, their economy was driven by automobiles.
Of course.
And so when you look at what was impacted the most dramatically, it was those economies. Yeah. Now, with the fact that there's really few people that are traveling today, I would predict that if there's going to be opportunity, it would probably be one of those 5 one of the 4 markets rather. I wouldn't predict Michigan as being another downturn.
Really?
But no one has. Well, so I was about to say no one has a crystal ball, but perhaps I'm in the wrong company to say that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we may have a crystal ball over here, to be honest. What are you predicting, Vaishali? What are you predicting to be the sort of future of not necessarily just real estate, but the future of business? I mean, do you really try to work on person by person, or can you sort of in essence add a few things up and think, well, this is where we're going to be? Because let's face it, we're in a world that nobody really has any answers for us right now, and it changes on a daily basis, an hourly basis, some days as well. So how are you using all these things to work with and sort of predict some sort of future idea?
So mainly I work with the clients on a one-on-one basis, which is in terms of their business. If they are looking to figure out what's going to happen in their business or not, kind of a thing. So it's kind of customized to the business. I do have group programs where I teach people other things, like how they can unleash their creative genius, or how they can create aha moments. But I can give you a few examples of people, like real life people who have kind of benefited from using the quote unquote business psychic readings.
So you're plugging what you do now, though, aren't you? That's not what I'm asking. I'm trying to find out what you're going to do right now.
Elliot, I want you to host our next presidential debates of the United States, please.
Hey, listen,
could you do that, please?
No problem. You can plug at the end of the show. But no, what are you doing? What is it that you're doing right now? I mean, I can give examples of things. We could all give examples of things. But I'm intrigued right now with what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you're going to take from all this that you can go, I can still help people with a prediction. I could still help somebody with getting some sort of idea about where they're going to go and then making that real. Because, we before this, of course, I'm sure you have a plethora of people that you could use as an example. But right now, what is it that works right now?
So I think I'm missing your question. I wasn't trying to pitch as Dan said, but I am definitely missing the question.
A lot of people come on the show, and it's a natural thing with podcasts. We found this before. It's a natural thing. Sometimes it's a natural thing you do to go. The answer is, in essence, what you're doing is selling what you do, and we get that, right? And people are understanding that as we have a chat. So I'm not being harsh, but I want to know what is right now. What is it that's working that you're helping people with, or you can help people predict? Because of course you've helped people, but we're in a different world right now.
Let's do different. Okay, let's do an exercise. How do you predict? Okay. What do you need from me and Elliot to predict something that we need right now? We have a business. we're not gonna swear in this business, okay? But
No,
actually,
you're
we decided selling condoms, all right? Just because loads of people are in lockdown, so they need to protect themselves a bit more.
A
Okay?
whole brand new
So,
range of condoms.
exactly. So help us with something over there, right?
I got the impression Dan was going to bail out for a second.
I'm not saying a word.
Okay, so think of it this way. I'll just give you abstract without going into the details of your particular business because I didn't realize I was going to be on such an exotic show.
Well,
Oh, we're exotic here.
Essentially, it's going down the lane, like going down 3 months from now.
mhm.
I could tell you the forecast of how your business is going to look like in terms of revenue. Let's say
Cool.
that you want to make a big deal with Airbnb, for instance, because
Yeah, I want to sell them condoms, definitely. Everyone needs condoms in their houses. Yeah, everyone knows it.
So I could kind of navigate you as to how you could potentially make the deal with Airbnb if that's what you want. If you can really go at that level, do you want to go at a level lower? Do you want to go at
No,
through some intermediary person? So it's essentially kind of going a shortcut route to be able to get your thingy, whatever it is called,
Yeah.
in the hands of the end buyer, or in this case, it would be for Airbnb.
Yeah, it's air condoms. That's right, and that's what we're gonna do. So
Where do you get this stuff from? I mean, there's that is one business you could have thought of. Listen, I suppose the difficulty is you don't know the situation. You've got to understand the person. You've got to understand the business to be able to understand where it's going to go. But the only thing I was trying to find out is listen, I understand you've got loads of people you've worked with, and I'm sure you have, and achieved great success and helped them to see in the future. But we don't know right now, do we? So how are we able to predict? How are you able to look at, well, you have that conversation because we actually had a contract in the business that that before lockdown, I was an international contract to do sales and run as their sales office. Okay. I didn't realize how difficult that would be afterwards because you just can't have the meetings with people. And even though the Zooms and having video calls and things like that are a lot easier and become, they're filtering those even more because they're having them all the time and they're at home and they can filter them out. So having meetings, one-to-one meetings with people that you don't know, actually, I think it's more, I don't think it's any easier having them on the video. So where I thought, yeah, we could still move ahead with it, still gave it a go for 3 months. We're getting nowhere. Yeah, you build a database, but and I'm reasonably good at sales. Pretty good, but it's not an easy market. Cold calling is probably even more difficult now because it's so easy for everybody to contact. So where you're saying about you can arrange a meeting and things, it's not so easy, I don't think. Dan, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You're in a market that is buoyant. People want to sell, people want to buy. Is it any easier? Is it any more difficult, or is it still been pretty easy to just carry on doing business?
My personal business was set up for this because I've got 20 people that I work with that work for me all across the world.
Yeah.
And we are ready. I mean, I've been interacting, even though I said earlier on the show that the pandemic has accelerated the use of video. I personally have been using this for years.
Yeah, so have I. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were already set up for this. So my business actually thrived. However, there's many unfortunate business owners who have not, and it's going to be a lot of the businesses that rely on the interactions with people. Movie theaters, restaurants. And then you look at it's just like any other economic thing. There's always going to be survivors. There's always going to be thrivers, and then there's always going to be people going out of business. Well, guess what? Amazon just reinvented the economy.
Yeah.
And Walmart, who reinvented the economy 25 years ago, is becoming irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that example makes sense, across the world.
For sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So it's things that the big box stores that worked in the past, not so much.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely an evolution that the economy is experiencing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't really expect everything to stay the same going down the road, right? There's always going to be shifts. The best thing you can do is just like, he future-proofed his business by just doing everything online even before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So I think the important thing is to have a plan B, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So do you, when you're working with people, Vaishali, are you looking a lot more to move people onto the online sort of format and do that?
Not really. My clients come to me with very specific problems. Like, for instance, if you had come to me 6 months or 9 months ago and said, "Hey, I'm about to sign off on this contract. What do you suggest?" I would tell you whatever it was that I saw. And it's up to you whether or not you would like to believe it. But that's really how I pretty much work with, that I kind of see through the future and predict and tell what's going to happen. And a lot of times it's very dicey because people are still in the present time. So it's hard to be able to relate to the prediction because they are not really there yet. So they don't have all the peripheral information or the background information or all the references. So think about it this way. If you had come to me in February and this contract, I'm just making up a number. Let's say you had $1 million contract with someone. And you said, "Hey, listen, everything looks good and I'm about to sign it." And I show you that, oh, that's going to be this problem, that problem, that problem. That's going to be up to you whether or not to believe it. Or maybe if you really wanted to go forward, you could have put clauses in the contract that, hey, like act of God clause kind of a thing, or whatever is the other clause. So that way you can protect yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. So you can start predicting the future of your business if you set things in place that are your future proofing. So in essence you're setting up I don't know, your goalkeeping ready for the future. You're setting up things that are going to protect your business and the way you do things. So, I mean, listen, one of the things I think is the biggest way to future proof what you're doing is multiple revenue streams as well. We talk about this more and more on the show. There's more people that are definitely right now changing that because they've realized they weren't safe in their role that they thought they were going to be safe, and they've been there years. Now they've been made redundant, or whatever's going on right now, and so they're really keen now. Everybody's really keen to have these multiple revenue streams. But then does this mean that suddenly the world, there's going to be millions of business owners who've got multiple businesses? It's going to get too much, surely? No,
I would think not, because an entrepreneur is a very special person that there's very few of, and that doesn't mean that. I mean, there's many people who venture into entrepreneurship, and the majority are going to fail.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And I agree with you, Elliot, in regards to the multiple streams of income, because I have the firm belief that it's much easier to create $100,000 net businesses than $1 million net business.
Definitely.
Because creating a business that generates $100,000 in your pocket for an entrepreneur is not that hard. Now, for the average person, it's impossible, right? But I'm qualifying that. Yeah. And so if you could look at it you just create one at a time, you can create something rather substantial. Yeah, that's one way to do it. Yeah,
I mean, and having a property, that's potentially one
Same
revenue
thing.
Stream, or two properties, or have a property that you split up, and we call them houses of multiple occupancy, HMOs in the UK. I don't know what they're called in the States, but buy a property and split it up into rooms. I mean, there's a big market for this right now, for sure. There's a lot of people that are doing that, and maybe even moving out of the cities and things they don't need to be in, and so there's always a demand for that. There's always a demand. So and they can get multiple revenue streams from one place. I mean, that's a great
yeah. Move. Actually, talking about that, just last night I've seen a guy that I know him. We've talked about him in private. Elliot is the guy that builds funnels, and he also owns a funnel platform. So where I host my website. So he has a few income streams, but he just set up a new business with a guy where he's selling properties and also renting properties in Dorset for people in London or something like that. Because he said he saw a spike in people from London moving out, since they actually don't have to really live over there anymore because they
Yeah.
can work from home. So he
Yeah.
set up a business like that, trying to advertise to people in London to move into Dorset, or let's say on the coast of UK, a nice part.
Well, that's where I went. That's where I went about a month or so ago. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, beautiful
Exactly.
down
Yes,
there.
it's
It's an
really,
hour and a
really-
half to London. Yeah, it's an hour and a half to us.
Cheaper prices, all that. It's much better in terms of actually, living costs and all that. So
So there's somebody that's jumped on straight away, understanding that they don't need to live in London now. The big offices are likely to change the way they're working. There's a lot of people not going back until at least February next year on some of the huge corporate companies, and they're just and that's if they do. They're definitely going to change that. So you don't need to be there. If you stayed there 2 days a week, it'd still be cheaper than living in London, wouldn't it? So there's definitely changes. So yeah, of course, that's when the market is changing. So the world is changing. That's not something you could predict at the beginning of the year, though, Vaishali, is it? But if you had, your foot in property already, then at least you've got some way of moving around and having some sort of income stream as well. Yeah. But. On the other side, Dan, do you have any involvement with any other business? Is it solely property? I mean, you have, you write. You're a writer. You're an author. You've written a book. Yeah. Does that generate a revenue? Does that generate an income stream as well?
A small revenue stream. Not really is the answer to that question. It breaks even, and I'm okay with it breaking even because the spin-offs from that, it's what's created through that is pretty substantial. Yeah, I do own. I am an investor. I've got a moving company and a title company, all kinds of different companies I'm an investor into that are very passive for me. And so you get into those multiple streams of income. That could be an opportunity if you're going to look for the future. Mm-hmm. You could be looking, say, a year from now at very good companies that are going to be struggling, looking for capital, that because of the pandemic just got crushed. Yeah. And so they may be looking for money. So if you have cash right now, keep a hold of it. I believe the opportunity is going to be, 9 months to 18 months from today.
Yeah. I definitely think you're right. I mean, the reason I asked about your book is because I know how these things work. I know they don't, unless you're lucky, you're not going to earn big money out of being an author, unless you're going to write some amazing book that's going to turn into a film. Sure. But is
that an offer?
Yeah, well,
I'm looking for a producer.
Oh yeah, I reckon I could do that.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, but it's a great way of people understanding what you do and putting it out there, isn't it? So you attract that audience, and that's what I was sort of getting at. These are the times to be doing some of this stuff, isn't it? These are the times to be creating content, creating some free value adds, or writing a book. A lot of people have had time to write books and become authors. I think focusing on what that book really is and adds value, getting it out there is a great way of getting people in. It's part of that client acquisition system, right?
Yeah, Elliot, the best thing for me that has come out of me becoming an author, a published author, has been to be able to create a community, the consistent, predictable income community. Yeah. And then through that community online, on Facebook, on the website, and in other places, and just in group coaching, I'm able to make an impact on people's lives that are entrepreneurs, business owners, salespeople, real estate agents, to be able to help them achieve the goals that they desire. And then through that, I'm able to, benefit as a byproduct.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, listen, there's big things in that. You run a group, Vaishali?
No, I have a podcast.
Yes, you do.
It's called The Uncanny Link, where physics meets metaphysics or science meets woo. And I explain how science and metaphysics or woo are kind of tied together, and how we can use that and leverage that for our advantage.
Yeah. And that's a great...
After listening to what Dan had to say, I do want to write a book and make it into a film. I think that's a great idea.
So, okay, let's predict the future now. What's going to be the book about? I suppose it's going to be about metaphysics and woo and stuff, or?
I think it's going to be about horses.
No, definitely not.
So I think the book will be about real life stories of entrepreneurs who have had used these experiences or intuition unknowingly, and had how do I say, had a breakthrough moment, and they had
It's gonna be about my condoms company.
I'm sorry.
I thought it's gonna be about our condoms company and Airbnb deal and all that.
Oh, that one. So for that one, I'm pretty sure we could do a private consultation.
Okay.
Oh, really? It's like that, is it?
Yeah, it's a sitcom for that one.
I don't know where this one's going. But listen, listen, we covered a couple of bits here.
Can you edit it? I didn't realize what I just said.
Yes, you just did.
You do now.
And we were all too polite to not go there.
We can take a great clip from that. Don't worry about that. But you've both covered. I mean, in asking those questions, both covered great ways of future proofing what you are doing and your business that you're doing as well. Dan's written a book, that I'm not being funny. That book's not going to go away. That's always going to be available. It's always something that if he wanted to sell it, he can sell it. If he wants to give it away, he can give it away. If it's somebody who wants to give some value to, so they can understand more about what Dan does and understand that they may come back, that's perfect. You've got a podcast, and in that podcast, you talk about all the things that you do and surrounding that, giving yourself authority. You've both given yourselves authority in your own ways. Would do this way easier than I could put pen to paper. I know that isn't necessarily the way you need to write a book these days. And we've done a show about that. So refer you back to YouTube if you want to go and check out that, because we've done a show about how to get a book out there through Amazon, which is really, really interesting, in fact.
Yeah.
But and you don't have to write. You don't have to write it. You can talk it. You could go and do something where you're studying on maybe not on a stage right now, but you could have a chat with somebody. You could talk about something, do a show, and record that, and then you can basically transcribe that, and then turn that into a book. So there's all sorts of different ways you can do that. But podcasting is a really easy way to get yourself out there. Dare I say easy? It's not an easy way to get yourself out there. To get in your audience is not easy at all. But if you keep pushing, keep doing it, then you will get noticed. And you only need to have a few people that hear it over time. You're future-proofing that, because in years to come, they're going to have a look at that content that you've done. They're going to listen to something you've done. They're going to read Dan's book, and they're going to go, do you know what? I've seen Dan floating around for the last few years. I've seen Vaishali, floating around for the last few years on social. I'm going to bite now. I'm going to go, and they've got something they can have a look at to buy into that. So what you're doing is you are future-proofing what you're doing with the content that you put out there. So that sort of brought us quite nicely to that, really, didn't it? These are actually easy ways of getting stuff out there, and cost-effective. Doing a podcast costs you time, costs you a little bit if you're going to produce it and things like that. Doing a book is a little more expensive, but there are cheap ways of doing it, and we'll, as we say, we've talked about it on the show before. So, guys, and I know that we've got to wrap the show up in a few minutes, unfortunately, but we could definitely talk about this. And I still haven't found out how the hell you're going to predict my future, Vaishali, to be fair. But I think you need to bring a crystal ball with you next time, and we're going to use that and find out what we can find out about the future. What do you reckon, Dan?
I think there's a lot of condoms in Adrian's future.
I mean, we didn't know we were going to go down that path today, did we?
Elliot, what I can do is I can do like an email reading for you, where I could send you like a forecast of what's going to happen to you during the next maybe 5 to 7 days. And then you can come back and tell me and show me how it played out.
I think that would be a great idea, and I'll definitely be reviewing that on the show for sure. I think that'll be a great idea. Why don't we do that? We'll have a chat after the show for sure. Definitely. Well, listen, Vaishali, where can everybody find you?
So my website is theuncannylink.com. And on that website, you can find me, and you can also listen to the podcast either through that site, or you can just put in Google the Uncanny Link podcast, and you can listen to it via Apple or any other platform that you would like.
Perfect. And of course, Adrian's done the honors and dropped the links into the comments. So if you're watching, listening to this show, then there's the links are there. And Dan, of course, where can they find you? And of course, your book. Sure.
The easiest way to find me and the things that we're up to is just simply go to www.danrochon, Rochon, that is also known as danrochon.com. And you'll find links to the Consistent Predictable Income Community Podcast, the book, the coaching programs, real estate sales, etc.
Perfect. Great stuff. Well, listen, guys. I don't know that we found out how we're going to predict the future for our viewers or for me. But I think that working one-on-one, I'm sure Vaishali can come up with some ideas that are going to help you to go forward. And even if you don't necessarily get there, I'm assuming, an assumption is the mother of all ups, but I'm assuming that helps you to move forward. And Dan, I'm sure your book definitely helps people in your arena. The reviews look good, so clearly you know what you're talking about, my friend.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
If you want to know anything more about our guest extraordinaires this evening, then the links are in there on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. So if you want to do that, if you want to get on the show and be a guest extraordinaire, then go to the Essex Business Radio Facebook page, click on send a message and tap on get on a show. And my cousin, who's a very small chatbot called Elliot Bot, will take you through a few questions. And then if you're a good fit, and we're a good fit for you, and we want to get you on the show, then we'll get that booked in, which is what happened with our guest extraordinaires today, didn't it?
I love the chatbot.
You do love the chatbot. We'll have a chat about that afterwards if you fancy.
Now the chatbot is on sale for only $99.99.
$99.99.
Wait, there's more.
Exactly. If you buy that today, you're gonna get 2 more chatbots to predict your future and help you with the real estate.
Oh, I have a great idea. I need to put a chatbot on my site to predict the future of someone.
You do. Well, I reckon we can probably help you with that.
Yeah, get in touch with the guy, very, very well-known guy in the industry. His name is Adrian anytime, and he can help you. Yeah,
he can help you. Definitely. Well, listen, thanks very much for watching. If you're listening to this as an audio podcast, then we are live Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays every week. Adrian and I are on a quest to learn from the best, chatting to extraordinaires from all over the globe about things that can help us all pivot. We can always learn from somebody. Knowledge is power. So through the power of edutainment, you may find something that's going to help you to pivot and grow. Big love to you guys. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
And we're gonna sign off for now. So I'm going to say, well, you're going to say,
ciao for now.
and I'm going to say, brown cow.